Is Princess Leonor getting married? The truth behind the rumors. Picture the echo of footsteps in a palace corridor. The lamps glow faintly against centuries-old stone, portraits of past monarchs staring down as if to measure the weight of the present. At the center of this silence walks Princess Leonor, Princess of Asturias, Spain's future queen. Every step feels rehearsed, yet every glance carries speculation. No cameras are here, yet the nation imagines the scene, a corridor where duty and rumor collide. And then, the whisper that refuses to fade. Not shouted, not confirmed, but impossible to ignore. Is Princess Leonor getting married? The question spreads across headlines, forums, and drawing rooms alike. But the truth behind the rumors is not what most expect. Because this is not a story about romance. It is a story about continuity. Imagine the echo of footsteps in a palace corridor, polished stone reflecting centuries of power. Each step recalls a monarch before her, each pause measured by protocol older than the building itself. For Spain, marriage within the royal family has never been private. It has always been political, constitutional, symbolic. Observers forget how this connects directly to Spain's constitutional framework. And that distinction matters more than it appears. Princess Leonor, Princess of Asturias, is 21st-century Spain embodied in a single figure. Educated abroad, trained within military institutions, fluent in languages, formed under scrutiny. Every public appearance is calibrated. Every silence is interpreted. And yet, rumors persist. They always do. But what happens when the cameras stop rolling? The title you've seen whispered across platforms returns here, not as spectacle but as consequence. Is Princess Leonor getting married? This phrase is not just intrigue. It is Spain's rehearsal for continuity itself. To understand why, we must slow down. Spain's monarchy is not just ceremony. It is the living thread of constitutional continuity. After the transition to democracy, the crown became a stabilizing institution, standing above politics yet anchored firmly within law. King Felipe VI embodies that role today. And Princess Leonor, Princess of Asturias, represents its future legitimacy. Marriage, in this context, is never just a personal milestone. It is a constitutional signal. Few realize how subtle gestures tie into centuries of royal protocol. In Spain, the heir's marital status has implications that ripple far beyond the palace gates. Succession law, public trust, international perception. These are not abstract concepts. They are quietly assessed each time the future queen steps into view. And yet, here is the paradox. Officially, there is no engagement. No announcement. No confirmed relationship. Spain's royal household has been deliberate in its silence. This detail is often misunderstood outside Spain. Silence is not avoidance. It is governance. At minute 1, the first cliffhanger emerges. If there is nothing to announce, why does the question refuse to fade? The answer lies partly in timing. Princess Leonor, Princess of Asturias, is completing a carefully structured path of preparation. Military training, constitutional education, symbolic duties. This sequence is not optional. It is designed to reinforce legitimacy before personal milestones enter the public frame. Observers forget how methodical this process is. Historically, Spanish heirs married later than rumor suggested. Not because of secrecy, but because the institution prioritizes readiness. Queen Letizia herself entered the monarchy as a commoner with a professional career, reshaping public expectations. That precedent matters more than it appears. Notice the way Princess Leonor, Princess of Asturias, carries herself. During official ceremonies, her posture is exact, her gaze controlled. This is the first of 3 clues. Body language under scrutiny. There is no visible signaling of transition. No symbolic jewelry shift. No protocol deviation. Every gesture follows established norms. And that absence is meaningful. The second clue lies in media framing. Headlines speculate, but insiders remain cautious. Spanish institutional journalists are trained to read between lines. When the royal household prepares a narrative shift, signals emerge subtly. A scheduling change. A ceremonial emphasis. None have appeared. And then there is protocol. The third clue. In Spain, any engagement involving the heir triggers a cascade of formal steps. Parliamentary awareness. Constitutional consultation. Public messaging. None of these mechanisms have been activated. This distinction matters more than it appears. At minute 4, the phrase on the thumbnail returns. Marriage rumors. The phrase is not decoration. It is Spain's monarchy condensed into one urgent tension. Why does the public ask now? Because Spain itself is asking questions. About continuity. About relevance. About the monarchy's place in a rapidly modernizing society. National identity is woven into these rituals, binding past and present in a single moment. Speculation reflects Spain's monarchy under public scrutiny and governance pressure. But here's the sharper turn. The real story is not whether Princess Leonor, Princess of Asturias, is preparing for marriage. It is why Spain watches so closely. At minute 7, a second cliffhanger surfaces. What happens when tradition collides with modern expectation? The answer unfolds slowly. Princess Leonor's generation does not inherit unquestioned authority. It earns legitimacy through transparency, discipline, and restraint. A premature focus on marriage would shift attention away from constitutional preparation. And that is not accidental. It is intentional. Spain's monarchy survives because it adapts. This is not a romantic institution. It is a pragmatic one. Continuity is not abstract here. It is embodied in the crown's visible presence. And right now, visibility is focused elsewhere. On training, on duty, on readiness. Midpoint approaches, and the escalation begins. This is the turning point. Ceremony gives way to scrutiny. At around 10 minutes, the pressure intensifies. International audiences watch Spain through Princess Leonor, Princess of Asturias. Her education abroad, her multilingual addresses, her symbolic presence at national ceremonies all serve a purpose. To present a monarchy aligned with democratic values. Marriage, at this stage, would complicate that message. This detail is rarely explained in full context. But it matters. Spain's constitutional monarchy depends on public confidence. Timing is governance. Now comes the climax. This is where ceremony turns into consequence. The question of marriage becomes a mirror. It reflects public anxiety about stability, about succession, about the future. The crown's continuity is being quietly tested, not by scandal, but by anticipation. And anticipation can be as powerful as action. Princess Leonor, Princess of Asturias, has not deviated from her path. That is the signal. Not absence, but alignment. Every public appearance reinforces institutional patience. This is resilience through restraint. At minute 13, the third cliffhanger emerges. And just when it seems resolved, a deeper question appears. What does Spain truly expect from its future queen? The answer is discipline before desire. Institution before individual. This may feel austere, but it is deliberate. Spain remembers its past. It remembers instability. The monarchy exists to prevent it, not provoke it. Crowds cheer during public events. But listen to the silence between applause. It reveals a nation's cautious anticipation. Not urgency. Not demand. But watchfulness. As we move toward the final act, foreshadowing becomes unavoidable. What seems ceremonial now may prove decisive in Spain's future. The monarchy's survival shifts from ritual to reality not through weddings, but through trust. There will come a time when Princess Leonor, Princess of Asturias, marries. When that moment arrives, it will not be rumor-driven. It will be institutional, transparent, constitutionally grounded, and widely understood as a step forward, not a distraction. Until then, speculation will continue. Because speculation fills the space where silence lives. And silence, in monarchy, is never empty. In the final moments, the forward-looking tension sharpens. The next chapter reveals pressures even more intense than today's. As Spain looks ahead, the monarchy's future hangs in delicate balance. Not because of romance, but because of responsibility. The story continues. And the stakes only grow sharper. The silence does not end here. It deepens. Because once the question of marriage is set aside, another reality comes into focus. What replaces it is far more consequential. Spain is not waiting for a wedding. Spain is watching for proof. Picture a formal hall during a national ceremony. The flags are positioned with mathematical precision. The order of entry is fixed, rehearsed, unyielding. Princess Leonor, Princess of Asturias, enters last, exactly as protocol dictates. Not because she is young, but because she represents continuity. Few realize how this subtle sequencing ties directly into centuries of royal protocol. Every placement signals hierarchy, readiness, and restraint. This is where many outside Spain misunderstand the moment. They read absence as delay. In reality, it is preparation. This distinction matters more than it appears. Spain's constitutional monarchy does not survive on emotion. It survives on credibility. After decades of democratic consolidation, the crown's legitimacy rests on one core principle: predictability. The institution must never surprise the nation. Marriage, succession, abdication, none of these are personal revelations. They are state-managed transitions. And this brings us to a detail often overlooked. Princess Leonor, Princess of Asturias, is still in formation. Military academies are not symbolic. They are filters. They expose discipline, endurance, hierarchy. They test obedience to institution over self. This is why her training is visible and prolonged. It is not theater. It is assurance. But here is the sharper question almost nobody asks aloud. What if the rumors are not about her at all? At minute 16, another quiet turn emerges. Speculation reflects not impatience with Princess Leonor, Princess of Asturias, but anxiety about Spain itself. Economic pressures, political fragmentation, shifting regional identities. In moments like these, societies instinctively look to symbols of stability. Marriage becomes shorthand for permanence. For future heirs. For continuity that feels tangible. Observers forget how deeply this connects to national psychology. Spain's monarchy stands above politics yet within law. That balance is fragile. Every gesture echoes governance, reminding citizens that the crown is not a celebrity institution but a constitutional one. When people ask about marriage, they are really asking whether the future feels secure. Notice how carefully the royal household responds. No denial. No correction. No engagement. Silence functions as insulation. It prevents the institution from being pulled into speculative cycles that erode authority. And yet, behind closed doors, the story takes a more deliberate shape. Strategic. Timelines exist. They always have. But they are not reactive. They are responsive to stability, not noise. This is why the monarchy waits for conditions, not curiosity. At minute 18, safe foreshadowing settles in. What seems like restraint today may soon be recognized as foresight. The gesture appears symbolic, but its weight stretches across generations. Princess Leonor, Princess of Asturias, is being positioned not as a romantic figure, but as a constitutional constant. Her value to the institution lies in reliability. In the ability to absorb pressure without distortion. And here is the final tension before we look ahead. The real test begins when speculation fades and expectation hardens. When the public no longer asks, "Is she getting married?" but instead asks, "Is she ready?" That moment is approaching. In the next chapter, pressures intensify beyond personal milestones. Spain's monarchy faces challenges that cannot be resolved through ceremony alone. Governance, legitimacy, and generational trust move to the foreground. What lies ahead may redefine Spain's monarchy in ways few anticipate. And as that future approaches, the silence surrounding Princess Leonor, Princess of Asturias, speaks louder than any rumor ever could. As the silence stretches, something else becomes audible beneath it. Not rumor, not speculation, but structure. There is a moment during official ceremonies when Princess Leonor, Princess of Asturias, is required to stand completely still for extended periods of time. No adjustment of posture. No glance toward family. No visible release of tension. This is not pageantry. It is assessment. Body language under scrutiny reveals discipline before comfort. And that detail is rarely explained outside institutional circles. Because monarchy, in Spain, is not inherited confidence. It is rehearsed composure. This is where the narrative quietly shifts. The question is no longer about marriage rumors. It is about readiness under pressure. And readiness, unlike romance, can be measured. Consider how the royal household structures visibility. When Princess Leonor, Princess of Asturias, speaks publicly, the content is deliberate. Constitutional language, historical continuity, national unity, never personal aspiration, never private future. Observers forget how intentional this separation is. It protects the institution from personalization. And that separation matters more than it appears. At this stage, introducing a personal storyline would fracture the message. Spain is not being prepared for a wedding. It is being prepared for reign. Even the smallest symbolic detail is filtered through this lens. Clothing choices, seating arrangements, order of precedence. Each one reinforces continuity over individuality. But what happens when public expectation accelerates faster than institutional pace? Here emerges another cliffhanger. Because the monarchy does not control curiosity, it manages consequence. The media environment has changed. Social platforms compress timelines. They reward immediacy. But monarchy operates on delay. That friction creates tension, and tension produces rumor. Yet here is the critical insight. Rumors flourish when there is nothing else to attach to. When there is no scandal, no instability, speculation drifts toward the personal. Marriage becomes a proxy conversation, a safe container for anxiety. This distinction is often misunderstood. Princess Leonor, Princess of Asturias, has given no signal of transition because the institution is not ready to shift narratives. That is not suppression, it is sequencing. Spain's monarchy is built on controlled evolution. Look back historically. Royal marriages in Spain followed moments of consolidation, not uncertainty. Stability precedes union, not the other way around. This pattern is not accidental. It is institutional memory. At roughly 22 minutes, the midpoint pressure transforms into resolve. The crown moves from rumor management to authority reinforcement. Every public appearance becomes quieter, more formal, less flexible. This is not withdrawal. It is reinforcement. The monarchy tightens its frame when external noise increases. Continuity is defended through calm. And here, another subtle clue appears. Public reactions are measured. There is curiosity, but not agitation. No demand, no protest. This reveals something important. Spain trusts the process, even if it questions the timing. Crowds applaud, cameras flash, but there is no insistence. No expectation of explanation. That silence from the public mirrors the silence of the institution. And that alignment is powerful. Now comes the deeper layer almost nobody articulates. Marriage will happen when it strengthens legitimacy, not when it satisfies curiosity. And legitimacy, in modern Spain, is earned through constitutional reliability. Through distance from spectacle. Through restraint that signals seriousness. This is why Princess Leonor, Princess of Asturias, remains framed as a figure of preparation. Not anticipation, not romance, preparation. And just when it seems the narrative has stabilized, another question surfaces beneath the first. What kind of monarchy does Spain want next? This is where the story extends beyond one individual. The future queen embodies an institutional experiment. Can monarchy remain relevant without intimacy? Without personalization? Without emotional storytelling? The answer is still unfolding. But one thing is clear. The absence of a marriage announcement is not a void. It is a message. A declaration that the crown will move on its own terms, aligned with constitutional rhythm rather than public impatience. As we approach the next phase, the forward pressure becomes unmistakable. The next chapter will not center on personal milestones. It will test institutional endurance, political neutrality, national cohesion. And when marriage eventually enters the frame, it will arrive not as a rumor fulfilled, but as a consequence revealed. Because in Spain, the crown does not respond to whispers. It responds to history. And history, in Spain, never moves quickly. It settles. It accumulates. It waits until the ground is firm enough to carry weight. As we reach the final stretch of this story, the question that once felt urgent now feels almost secondary. The rumors soften. Not because they were answered, but because they were outgrown. The monarchy has guided attention elsewhere, toward something far more enduring. Picture Princess Leonor, Princess of Asturias, standing during a national address. Her voice is steady. The language is measured. There is no improvisation, no emotional appeal. This is intentional. Every word reinforces one idea: continuity without drama, governance without spectacle. This is the quiet power of the institution. Few realize how rare this approach has become in modern public life. In an age that rewards oversharing, the Spanish crown practices disciplined absence. It withholds the personal to protect the constitutional. And in doing so, it reminds the nation that monarchy is not a narrative of feeling, but a structure of responsibility. The rumors about marriage were never dangerous. What would be dangerous is haste. Because once that threshold is crossed, there is no reversal. Marriage for the heir is not a chapter. It is a turning point. It reorients perception. It invites scrutiny not just of the individual, but of the institution's future trajectory. Spain understands this. That is why patience is not passive here. It is strategic. This detail is often misunderstood outside Spain. Observers sometimes assume that silence indicates uncertainty. In reality, it signals confidence. The monarchy does not rush to reassure. It assumes continuity unless proven otherwise. That assumption is its greatest assertion of stability. And so, the truth behind the rumors becomes clear. Princess Leonor, Princess of Asturias, is not moving toward marriage yet because Spain is still completing something more fundamental. The transfer of trust. From one reign to the next. From experience to preparation. From symbol to substance. When that transfer feels complete, the narrative will shift naturally. Without shock. Without speculation. Without the noise that accompanies rushed transitions. Until then, the crown remains focused on what cannot be delayed. Formation. Legitimacy. Constitutional presence. This moment, subtle as it seems, foreshadows challenges still to come. Not personal ones, but national ones. The monarchy will soon face pressures that test neutrality, relevance, and unity more sharply than any rumor ever could. And this is where the story truly continues. Because the next chapter is not about marriage at all. It is about leadership under modern scrutiny. About how a future queen navigates a fragmented political landscape while remaining above it. About how Spain redefines continuity in a century that distrusts permanence. What lies ahead may redefine Spain's monarchy in ways few anticipate. And as the nation looks forward, one truth remains steady beneath all speculation. The crown does not hurry. It prepares. And when it moves, it does so with consequences that echo far beyond headlines. In the next episode, the pressures intensify. The tests become more visible. And Spain's monarchy steps closer to a moment that will shape its future for generations to come. Until then, the silence holds. And in that silence, history is still being written.